So, there are the hedonists, and then there are the, I don't know what the opposite of a hedonist is, but we'll call them the fasters, okay, right? Kind of people that are like always fasting, or they're all about like denying yourself, is like number one priority in all of life kind of thing. Now, I believe there's another path besides those two paths, but like any path, there are potential pitfalls, right? So hedonism, is sort of the unbridled pursuit of pleasure, and then by contrast, the fasters, right? They're all about deprivation as a way of getting close to God. Now, let me be the first to say, if that deprivation genuinely does make you close to God, then by all means, to whatever capacity that you can, in good health, etc., do so. Then great, go ahead, keep doing that. That's excellent. Um, But what got me started thinking about this idea of our appetites is a sermon by Bill Johnson. And he was talking about this idea. Well, he was talking about the parable of the sower and how that, some of the seed got choked out by the cares of this world, the deceitfulness of riches, and so on. And, I think if there's any of those soil types or conditions that's a risk for me, that one is probably number one on the list. And I, I'm sure I probably will not say it as elegantly as Bill Johnson did, but he was talking about this idea that the wrongful pursuit of our appetites could cause us to miss out on the fulfillment that God has for us. In other words, um, many of our desires are not inherently wrong. Now, there's usually like a selfish version of them maybe that's wrong, or it's when we demand a right to have our desires fulfilled in the way that we want them to be fulfilled, on the time frame we want them to be fulfilled, all that. It's when we get entitled and when we get to demanding things, I think, that we get into a lot of problems. And let's just use money because it's an easy one. So let's say I demand that I must have a certain amount of wealth or money or whatever, and let's say God has me in a season where, like, let's say He's called me to, work at a nonprofit, and not make much money, right? But I demand, hey, I must have that money, and so I go out and do some sketchy business deals, or make some risky investments, or whatever to get this money that I feel I have to have. Well, it could be that what God really had in mind was after I've worked at the nonprofit for several years, through that, for me to get to know somebody, and that person makes me a great offer to work at his company, and I get all that money that I wanted. And it may be that desire that I had for money, if you will. Now we have to be careful, right, when we talk about desire for money. But that there could be a legitimate desire to have more of something that is actually not inherently wrong, right? It's not inherently wrong to have desires. Like, um, you know, we are made in the image of God and we carry His stamp, and the things that we want, while we do need to have our wanter purified, right? Um, there's much that we want that is completely fine to want, right? Uh, now, to make this illustration a little stronger, let's say that it had been prophesied over me that I was going to become very wealthy, and that was important for God's plan for me in His kingdom. So, if I, in that stage where I'm working at the nonprofit, if I insist on trying to make that money in these sketchy business deals and shady investments or whatever, and then I can make the argument in my mind, hey, this is what God promised for me. This is what I must do. But I could fail to do it God's way and in His time. And so, let's say those business deals go south, the investments don't pan out, I lose a lot of money, and I get kicked out of my job at the nonprofit even because they were like, "Wow, what kind of dude is this?" You know, and so I could have a result that either or let's say it could go the other way, right? It could go the way that my investments pan out, my sketchy business deals work, and I make a lot of money. But at what cost, right? Because now God is not the center of what I'm doing. Now it's just me fulfilling my desires because I demand that to be the case. And think of how much better it could be when, at the right time, in the right way, God provides what I had desired, what was prophesied over me, what was my destiny, and but at that point, God can be in the center of it, rather than my own sort of worldly wisdom way of going about it. And so, anyway, I'm sure if you want to pick apart elements of what I've just said, that there's probably some holes in there, right? But the basic idea is desires, many of our desires are not wrong, they're legitimate. And there are good and legitimate ways for them to be fulfilled. And the way for that to be fulfilled is through God, through His plan, and through His methods. And when we do that, we can have our desires fulfilled, and we can keep God at the center of our lives. Versus if we go out and do it in worldly wisdom, do it in our own strength, um, compromise our integrity, and then at that point we've removed God from the center. At that point we become double-minded, if you will, and we've allowed, if you will, the cares of this world, the worldly perspective, even if you will, to really taint our experience of having that desire fulfilled, and probably destroying a lot of our focus on God and so forth. So, anyway, am I a shining example of all the right things in this? Probably not. Probably not. But um, I guess I would aspire to do this the right way.